All right. Good morning, good afternoon,
Good
good
evening.
evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're in. So, welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict
Live.
So, before we start talking today, we want to first to thank you for your support because we can't thank you enough. Your support means a lot to us. But also, we wanted to inform you that if you like our videos and you will want to support us, consider subscribing to the Patreon. We will have a link at the bottom of the description. So today we decided to talk about the upcoming digital dollar and what does it mean to you and what you need to know. Apparently, the feds are working behind the scenes on how they're going to introduce this and why they want to do this. So we figured, you know what, Ross, we're going to inform you about few things you need to know. Of course, it's your decision. You decide whatever you want to do. But one thing you need to know is that with the introduction of this digital dollar, we're talking about the control of your finances. Do you really want to have the Feds controlling your finances? What do you think, Ross?
Well, I don't want them to control it, but I think it's inevitable. It's coming, and China should give us an example as to how this could work, because they have already tried it. They're polishing it. They're going to really launch it at the Olympics in 2022.
Yeah.
And it's really social control at the max, because they watch every cent that everyone spends and they get to approve or disapprove. Well, with the political parties in this country, you think it's very far off before they're going to, with digital dollar in watching everyone's bank account, there's not going to be political hanky-panky go on. Some people are going to be harmed by it.
Yeah.
Some people are going to benefit from it. And it's just, I think it's inevitable.
Yeah. Well, there is one thing before we move forward in the discussion here. And by the way, we're going to do about 15 minutes discussion here. Then we're going to open up the floor for your questions. So we'll keep answering questions, whatever questions you may have. So just before we delve deeper into this topic, and I'm not going to get into the history of how governments, historically speaking, always wanted to control the finances. So, as a matter of fact, what's his name? Mayor Rothschild.
Oh yeah.
Back in 1744, and he did say, and I quote, "Let me control the finances, and I don't care who makes the law."
That's right. That's what he said.
But of course, this control of the digital dollar didn't happen in a vacuum. Like Ross mentioned, it's also a reaction to what China has already launched. It's digital yuan, and that came through WhatsApp Pay application they have, which you can go anywhere in Europe traveling. You just pay through that system. So yes, of course, the Chinese system, that's what they do. They will be able to monitor the spending of individuals. Have it for us in our system, it will go far beyond.
You know, it's interesting traveling through China, because we were one of the few people who actually used paper money. Everyone else just went clip, and they paid for things. So the money was already being tracked even before the digital yuan was really launched. People are just used to it.
Yeah. Well, there is also the question of, okay, what happened to my privacy?
It evaporated.
You're right. What happened to hacking, the cybersecurity aspects of it? So basically, because of what the Federal Reserve, as a matter of fact, as we speak, the Central Bank of Massachusetts are now working with MIT on creating a software that deals with this, the digital currency per se, because they need to try it out. The Feds here in the US, they are realizing they're falling behind.
Oh yeah.
Because you're talking about countries moving forward. Well, when you think about the global currencies, the US, of course, come number one. What's after that? Is the euro.
Right.
And even European Central Bank, right now, they are considering because if they don't come up with something
Their
by
own digital currency.
based on the research that I conducted, that some of them consider if they don't come up with something by 2025, they're gonna fall behind.
Yeah, they said they're active, and it was going to take a while to get this thing situated, which is it's really a lot more complicated than you would ever think. So I think it's going to take 3 or 4 years, just as they've predicted.
That's correct. And because of where this is going, you start to wonder about, okay, it's almost like the Fed don't have enough control. They want no control of the finances. And to me personally, and this is my personal opinion, it's very alarming. So why the Fed should get involved in my private life as far as where I want to spend my money? And even to the point of, well, look what China's doing. We don't care. That's China. We're here, And if we are only to copy China in the bad things, how about if we copy them in the good things, like infrastructure, like the investments in technology and so forth? So it becomes almost the question of okay, where America's going, we just build in like weapons and all that, and why China's making money.
Yeah, there's an article out right now. It's really quite humorous. America builds aircraft carriers, and China builds business relationships and makes money. And going, well, how true is that?
So it's almost like China is the capitalist system. I know it's weird to say, or almost like will be, how dare you? Can you say something like that? But it's the truth. Aren't they making money?
Everywhere they go, they're noted for, we're here to make some money. And by the way, you're welcome to make money with us, but we're here to make money. We don't want to put a military base here. We don't want to get involved in your internal politics. We don't want to cause a war or be involved in a war. Matter of fact, we want to avoid all that stuff.
Well, you look at just the last 20 years. Have you heard about China being involved in a conflict elsewhere around the world?
What do you know? No.
So, and for us, what did we gain out of 20 years in Afghanistan?
Well, we gained a $2 trillion bill. And going forward.
On borrowing.
And borrowing.
We didn't even have the money. We had to borrow the money, which
some
means
of it was from
China. It's just the idea of, I know it's not humorous in the sense that this is our serious issues, because it's going to impact your pocket, my pocket, Ross's pocket, all of us. Yeah, yes, we laugh and whatever, but there's some seriousness beneath that, because the concern as to where the Fed's financial policies are going. And what makes matter even worse is this massive printing of money out of thin air.
Right.
That money will have to be paid back one way or another.
And the current thinking is it's going to be paid back through inflation.
Well, we already start to say, I just bought a house. Okay? I'm going to share this with you. I just bought a house. And I had somebody came over because I wanted to paint the ceiling in the kitchen. Okay? And I said, okay, let me just figure out what the cost will be. I just wanted to get an idea. I mean, I had an idea in my head as to what the cost for painting a ceiling. That's about it. And I had the gentleman came over and he gave me an estimate. Guess what was the estimate for just a ceiling? About 30 by 24. It was about $2,400.
Oh my God!
For something that I know usually used to cost only $500 max.
And it's everywhere.
Yeah, I stopped at a Home Depot yesterday.
Yeah,
the lumber, $68. It used to be $18. And this is what you need to know. Why this hike in prices? Even though the government is saying, prices went up by 4.2%. That's nonsense. It was more than that. But also because of this printing of money. At some point, somebody's going to have to step in. And this is what we'd like to do, is provide information so you can make informed decisions.
I was talking to a grocery wholesaler. And I said, well, the government says that the inflation rate is 4.5%. And he said, well, so far this year, our prices have gone up 13%, and it's May. What?
Yeah, and you know, I'll take his word for it.
Oh, he's the guy. I mean, yeah, he's the wholesaler.
Now, this leads me to mention something, Ross, and you will be well qualified to talk about this. What will be the psychological impact that the stress of this financial thing is going to do to people?
You know, you really can't measure it, because we're going to see degradation of health. We're going to see degradation of relationships. We're going to see more suicides. We're going to see stress, stress, stress. People understand that they're living on the edge, paycheck to paycheck now. And if prices go up, they're not going to have enough to pay the bills.
And we're not producing anything in this country.
We're not producing. And people don't have a way to make more money.
No.
And even their investments, I mean, you go to the bank and they'll say, well, we'll offer you 0.5% annually, but inflation's eating you at 13%.
Yeah, basically, if you have any savings in the bank, that money is going to become useless. In other words, it doesn't have sort of the value it used to hold, you know. And this is where, for me personally, where my big concern with this digital dollar that the Fed is going to introduce, you know, because this digital dollar is going to be programmable,
right?
Which means the Fed, can direct you as to where you spend that money. You can spend it on store A, but not store B. Because if store B happens to have policies or criticizing the government, I can control that.
Or if they're not supporting the political party that's in power, they can be punished by not being able to spend money there.
Yeah. The Fed's argument is no. The digital dollar is going to create a faster way for Americans to receive stimmy checks should the government decide to do that. You know. But what the Fed's not telling people is that, okay, when we introduce this digital dollar, we're going to put a time on it. If it is not spent by certain dates, guess what happened, Ross?
Yeah, they're going to take it back.
They're going to take it back.
Or if it's not spent exactly where they tell you to spend it, they can punish you for that. One thing, they can take the money back. And now where are you?
Yeah.
You spent money, now it's disappeared.
Yeah, and this is basically history repeating itself. This is not new as far as the government controlling the finances. Do you remember the incident in India a couple of years ago when the prime minister at the time said, in 2016, I remember that, when they said the 501,000 rupees will no longer be.
Oh, right.
They cut it overnight.
Yeah.
Overnight. Which means if you had so much money, you have to go to the bank, turn it in.
But there was this proviso to it.
Yeah.
You had to justify where you got that money. So if you get it from anything other than a legitimate source, you're in trouble because you can't convert it now.
So, and that tells you right away how things can change quick. And this is even when, if you ever realize, at least for our viewers in the United States, and I'm sure they do have them in other countries, have you ever wondered why, for example, the max of transactions in cash here in the United States is no more than $10,000? If you withdraw $10,000 from a bank, it has to be reported. If you deposit $10,000 in a bank, it has to be reported.
So they're watching.
Yeah, same thing in Europe. I think Europe has a max of 1,000. I do know in Japan, Japan has about the max that you can withdraw from an ATM machine is 50,000 yen, which comes to about $470.
It's not much.
It's not much. Well, there are certain other ones that they limit it to 1 million yen, between 1 and 2, which is the equivalency of $9,000. So you can just see the government is already putting those, what shall we say, restrictions for the cash. And this is why if you are a foreigner coming to the United States, if you notice when you fill out the immigration form, it's asking you, do you carry a sum of money more than $10,000? You have to declare that one.
I worked for a market investigation company for several years in the 90s. And the kind of information we had on people was outrageous, how much their privacy was hurt. It is nothing compared to today. And if this digital dollar goes through, that means that the government is going to be able to control your money. They're going to watch. They're going to be able to tell you where you go and what you do by where the money is spent. And they're going to be able to approve or disapprove and take your money if they disapprove.
That's true. So do we want the government to have more control than what it already does? The answer is no. So let us open the floor for your questions here. And whoever wants to, let's see. It is a first question from Ariel. Good to see you again, Ariel. Thank you very much for your question. Question reads, do you think China has the capability to really sink Western economy by dumping their US Treasury bonds at the right time? Or with the digital yuan is enough? That is a good question. And the answer to the first part is yes, they could. Because here is where the things, I see it going, and this is my personal opinion, the way I see it going, China's introduction of the digital yuan, it has nothing to do with they just want to knock down the US dollar or whatever. What China wants is two main objectives. One of them is to free itself from the strangulation, the financial strangulation of the US financial hegemony or the dollar. And second is to pave the way for other countries around the world who wants to do trade with China to trade in a digital yuan, which means basically, as a result, is to bypass the SWIFT system. If you used any wiring money or whatever, you know what the SWIFT is. So, and the second thing is to avoid sanctions. Basically,
and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
If you don't, if the dollar isn't dominant, sanctions don't mean anything.
No, they become irrelevant.
Right.
So, and this is where I see the objective of China, and rightly so. If we were advising the monetary board in China or any other country, yeah, that's the right course of action. Because the United States hegemony in the financial sector, which has been since 1944 with the Bretton Woods system, has been controlling all the transactions. And this is why even the Europeans now are seeing this, and they want to move forward with the creation of their own digital.
So we're seeing two major impacts of this sanction deal. One is the rest of the world is saying, let's come up with something else.
Yes.
And trade with China has increased.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Next question. Biryukov Vedin, good to see you again. So the question says, David, as you do not trust Fed to monitor your digital dollar as privacy concerned.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Fundamental question. Why most Americans do not trust their own federal government? Isn't this a big problem as a country?
Oh my God. Is it?
You hit the nail on the head. I couldn't agree more with your assertion, and rightly so. The trust in the government here is a very, very low. But also the government understand. And by the way, we're not just criticizing for the sake of criticizing. We are providing the arguments so things can be fixed.
Right.
You know, that's like when we read your comments, there are wonderful comments, supportive and all that, but there's always somebody who will say something outrageous that has nothing to do with the reality. We don't mind criticism as long as it is constructive. And this is what we're trying to do. So the trust in the government here, it's very, very low. And the reason to that is the government understand that if I, the central government, keep people busy, I gotta keep them distracted with the stuff. So they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. And this is part of where my concern with this digital dollar, it's just gonna give the government another tool to just get very, very delve deeper into our privacy. And the government—
And to control us.
Yeah, and the government shouldn't have that authority. That's like deciding what to do with our self, with our bodies, with our finances, with our real estate, with whatever. The
Right.
government shouldn't have that authority to just decide for us. We decide for ourselves, at least based on what the Constitution says. The government is for the people. by the people. So I hope I answered your question, Bin Yuqaf. Next one. One more question from Ariel here. Do you think quantum computing will be instrumental in this emerging age of digital currency? Oh man, amen to that, Ariel.
Likely, and you know who's ahead of the pack here with the
quantum computing.
The quantum computing.
China. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That million engineers and scientists every year that graduate. You know, we keep talking about it, but this is a very powerful force in terms of them being able to leap forward.
That's correct. The quantum computing is going to play a major role in moving the digital, at least for China, because there's a lot of technology, softwares involved, and all that. A lot of computing powers. So the quantum computing, and China is already making strides in this field. Remember when the 5G came out and how the US didn't want that, and they went ahead and forced the European to ban 5G? You know, instead of cooperating with China, we could have. I mean, even until today, we still do not have up-to-date 5G network.
And what has China done?
It's working on 6G. So the short answer to your question, Ariel, is yes, quantum computing is going to play a major role in moving forward with the digital currency. All right, Trini Trang, thank you very much for your question, Trini. The question reads, America being a democracy, so we thought.
Yeah.
Why can the citizens organize and get rid of the Fed system and replace it with something else?
Oh my God.
This is why we love you guys. You guys have a really...
These are great questions.
Yeah, these questions you don't come across just, you know, and
you know, it might be a similar answer to how come we're doing billions of dollars in aircraft carriers, and this, you know, the defense budget being $758 billion. How come when people know that and they're not interested in it, how come we can't get it stopped? Might be the same answer, because the power brokers want this in place.
Yeah,
and they control the elections.
Yeah, first of all, just to define this term of democracy, a lot of Americans think they live in a true democracy. There is no such thing. Aristotle, you don't know who Aristotle is or was. You know, he warned about democracy thousands of years ago.
Yeah, in Greece.
He warned about it. Democracy can be messy, you know. And at the same time, if you have a government that, when the Constitution says the government is for the people, by the people, and yet we have no say into, for example, the presidential elections.
Right.
Our elections for president is done by the Electoral College. You know, where is democracy into this? I voted for A, and you picking up B for me? Well, who gives you the right to choose for me? You know, and this is where that concept of, and I'll say it straightforward because I don't sugarcoat things. You know, democracy is an illusion. So it's the truth. Till Americans wake up, nothing is going to change. So the system is going to be the way, the way it's going to be, because, you know, there is no understanding of what the role of citizens in a system like ours. You know,
right.
You think of other countries. We'll go again with the example of China. Why there is trust in the Chinese government? Because the citizens know what their government stands for. They don't have those wishy-washy policies. Well, if China says we're going to eradicate poverty, that's what China does. If China says we're going to build infrastructure, that's what China does. You know, if China says we're going to make money, that's what China does. You know, for us, is we're playing politics with people's lives, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that why things are not working out for us is also because we don't have something called term limits.
Oh,
and we did a video on this.
This is so important in terms of people being in Congress for 40 years, and the kind of power brokers these people become, and how wealthy they become.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, most members of Congress are millionaires.
I think that practically everyone is. I think there are two holdouts.
That's it.
And they're at 800,000 or 900,000.
And we're not saying that all of them are crooks or bad people. That's not what we're saying here.
I'm not saying that at all.
It's just amazing how you come to Congress as a representative for your constituents, and all of a sudden, instead of serving a term or two, you end up staying 35 years. And all of a sudden, your account has about $100 million. How did that happen? You know, we all know the salaries of the government are limited. You know, they are
Right.
basic stuff, and you know, it's very complicated, very, very complicated. But again, it's complicated also because of ignorance, lack of information, that citizens are not willing to educate themselves. We don't read much, you know.
The kind of information you and I get is not so easy to come by.
No.
I mean, we're checking foreign sources. We're actually having conversations with people in other countries. You're reading it in several languages. And so we're getting information that isn't readily available to Americans.
Well, that was the whole idea of why we decided to launch the YouTube channel in the first place. Because we figure out, you and I, you know, we'd be sitting on this knowledge for what? I mean, what's the point? If you have knowledge and you couldn't share it with others, what's the point? It's useless.
Right.
You know, that's what I call the idiot savant. That's what we're going to become. So, and we don't want to do that. We want to share information. Here is another question from Trini. Thanks again for your question, Trini. The question reads, how do you think the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is covered on U.S. MSN? Fair or unfair or neutral? That is an explosive topic. And it's a great question. I remember my first book, it's called The Ambiguous Foreign Policy of the United States Towards the Muslim World. I addressed this particular question. The Arab-Israeli conflict, and I happen to know a little bit about, because I followed up for the last 30 years. So I had a chance one day to talk to a former U.S. envoy, Ambassador Ross. His name is Ross, Dennis Ross, yes. I had a chance to talk to him personally. And we talked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's a very complicated. Is the U.S. neutral on this? No, the U.S. is biased on it. As a matter of fact, just this morning, guess what China announced? They announced that the United States is being biased.
No.
And you know why? Because yesterday, it was a vote in the UN Security Council to open up a session about the Israeli aggression towards the Palestinians and all that. And guess who objected to that?
The United States.
The United States objected. So we all know the U.S. policy towards favoring one side and not being balanced. And this is why the whole world lost trust in the United States to be an honest broker for the Arab-Israeli conflict.
You know, we saw some forward thinkers who said, you know what country has the best relationship with all the countries in the Middle East?
China. Yeah, China does have
business
that.
with them.
Yeah.
And they know that China isn't interested in going to war. They want to make business occur and make money.
That's correct. They don't favor one over another. They'll do business with whomever. So the honest truth and answer to your question, yes, the U.S. foreign policy towards that particular issue is biased, and they need to. But again, the reason for that also is we are lacking qualified diplomats who understand the culture, who understand the history, who understand the language, and have at least been in that part of the world. You know how our ambassadors, and I shall not generalize here, get to the post is because they donate money to a political campaign.
They bought the seat.
They bought the seat, basically. Well, if you just donated money, it doesn't qualify you to become an ambassador. Because if you couldn't understand what that country is all about, its culture, its history, its language, how can you represent the United States in that country if you don't even understand it?
Right.
So that is part of what the problem, Trini, is. So, well, just to wrap this up, so to go back to what we started with about the introduction by the Feds regarding the digital dollar, you might want to keep your eyes open and ears so you can learn and understand how this is going to impact you, because mark my word on it, it will.
It's coming.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that you are at least have some information for you to make the right decisions that is best for you, your family, and your financial well-being. So we want to thank you again for joining us and hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.